In 1989, Cedar Point combined forces with Utah-based manufacturer Aerodynamics to create the record-breaking Magnum XL 200, effectively launching the Coaster Wars, a period of roughly 18 years where theme parks around the world competed to build the biggest, fastest, craziest roller coasters in existence. This era brought a boom of innovation to the theme park industry, with some creations being incredibly successful, and others less so. Joining the race to build the ultimate roller coaster was Six Flags Magic Mountain, and in 2002, they debuted a true monster of a ride that would blow all other coaster concepts out of the water, and the aforementioned Aerodynamics out of business. In this video, I'll be reviewing that monster of a coaster, now known as X2, detailing its full ride experience and giving it a final score at the end. On December 19th, 2000, Six Flags Magic Mountain announced the addition of X, the world's first fourth dimension coaster. Standing 175 feet tall with a 215-foot near vertical drop and 3,610 feet of twisted steel track, X towered over the entrance to the parking lot. Its bright pink and yellow structure leaving an unforgettable first impression on guests as they approached the park. But what made X truly special wasn't just its size. Up to that point, riders had experienced coasters sitting above the track and eventually below it. But X introduced something entirely new. Riders were seated in pairs on either side of the track, and thanks to an incredibly innovative design by Aerodynamics, those seats could rotate independently of the train itself. This was made possible by a unique four-rail system. The inner rails guided the train like a traditional coaster, while a second set of outer rails acted as a mechanical program, moving up and down to trigger a gear system that controlled the rotation of the seats. As the train moved through the layout, that system physically rotated riders into head-over-heels flips at precisely timed moments. For the first time, a coaster's experience wasn't just defined by where the track went, but by where the rider was facing at every moment. The result? Absolute insanity. Unfortunately, that innovation and insanity came with a price. While slated to open in 2001, X was plagued with technical issues. Its prototype trains were way heavier than expected, putting massive stress on the track and seat rotation gears. As engineering problems and expenses piled up, Aero filed for bankruptcy, and the coaster finally opened to the public in January of 2002. Now, did it operate reliably? Absolutely not. But for those lucky enough to catch it running, it rocked their worlds. After years of being plagued with downtime, Magic Mountain decided to take a second chance on their star problem child. In late 2007, X was shut down for a major overhaul. In the next spring, it reopened as X2. It sported a striking new red and black paint job and brand new lighter trains from S&S Worldwide, who had acquired Aero's assets post-bankruptcy. Best of all, the experience was dialed up with an onboard audio soundtrack featuring bangers from Metallica and the Beastie Boys, plus everyone's favorite coaster element, fire. So now that you know how we got here, what's it actually like to experience X2 for yourself? X2 sits by itself in the far southeast corner of the park, so if you're planning to rope drop it, which you definitely should, even though there's always a chance it may not open with the park due to maintenance delays, be prepared to get your cardio in. It's nearly half a mile from the park entry plaza to the ride entrance, all uphill. It is Magic Mountain, after all. As riders enter the queue, they're eventually split to either the east or west side before making their way up to the station. The station itself is fairly minimal, largely unthemed, with a tall metal arch ceiling reminiscent of an airplane hangar. But there is one focal point at the front of the station, a large LED screen that, at least originally, played a very 2008 animated sequence of twisted red track growing like a vine out of some kind of steampunk horror landscape. All of it set to a dramatic female voice whispering, X2, X2. Granted, I haven't actually seen that screen working in years. Once you reach the platform, all loose articles have to be stored in $1 lockers. Ride attendants will then assign rows, anywhere from 1 through 7, but they do take requests. Personally, if you're brave, I definitely recommend asking for the back. From there, you take your seat and pull down the restraint. X2 uses a unique butterfly restraint system that ratchets inward and then downward, creating a snug fit across your upper body while leaving your lower half relatively exposed, other than the large bulbous divider between your legs. And then there's the orientation of the train itself. The 28-passenger train is positioned backwards in the station, so when you dispatch, you actually begin the ride moving in reverse. That means what feels like the back of the train is effectively the front during these opening moments, giving riders in the rear row the best unobstructed view. Once given the all clear, the seats tilt back, lifting riders' feet off the ground. The train takes a small dip out of the station, turning 180 degrees to the left and engaging with the lift. As riders climb the 175-foot lift hill, they're treated to what I personally believe is the best view in all of Valencia. The entire park set against the backdrop of the Santa Susana and San Gabriel Mountains. Before you can get too lost in the serenity, the train crests the lift and begins to fall backwards. For unfamiliar riders, this moment is a bit of a tease. While it briefly feels like you're about to plummet with your back to the ground, this initial drop is only about 15 feet, just enough to give you that flutter in your stomach. The train then begins to rise again, and as you're pulled upward, the seats start to rotate forward. Suddenly, you're 215 feet in the air, staring straight down at the ground far, far below. Thus begins the first and longest oh shit moment on X2. In the front, it feels like you're floating over the crest of this hill. In the back, you are absolutely yeeted over it for one of the most insane moments of ejector airtime on any coaster anywhere. Remember how I said your lower body is relatively exposed? In this moment, you really feel it. Before you can catch your breath, you're plunging down the 215-foot, 88.5 degree first drop, still facing straight towards the earth. Then, about halfway down, the seats perform a forward somersault, flipping you head over heels mid-fall. I mean it when I say this is one of the most insane sensations I've ever felt in my life. It's at this moment you realize that Alan Schilke, the designer of X2, now better known for his revolutionary work at Rocky Mountain Construction, is an absolute psychopath, and we love him for it. As you're thinking to yourself, what the heck was that? The train snaps you onto your back as you pull out of the drop, hitting around 4 Gs. And yes, for those paying attention, that drop is actually 45 feet taller than the lift hill itself. Awesome. From here, the train barrels into a massive Raven turn, climbing high above the ground in a sweeping half loop before flipping you back onto your stomach as you crest the top. At this point, you're essentially flying like Superman. You know, it's funny, Tatsu is located right up the hill, but at this moment, X2 easily feels like the dominant flying coaster in the park. As the train begins its steep descent back to terra firma, the seats tilt upright once again, and riders in the back row are ripped over the drop and catapulted upward into their seat for another incredible freefall moment. Only the boldest riders will have their arms outstretched at this point. Bottoming out once again in a forceful valley, you'll notice the train has now gone from sitting on top of the track to hanging below it. X2 is truly a versatile queen. From here, you rise up into what looks like a simple, large camelback from off the ride. However, X2 doesn't do simple. Halfway up the element, riders are once again flipped head over heels, but this time in a backwards somersault. It almost feels like a 0G roll, but instead of that whippy lateral rotation, you're essentially floating as the seats flip around you, with a mix of positive and negative Gs that feel both forceful and graceful, and far more disorienting than a standard 0G. Up to this point, X2 is one of the most incredible ride experiences in the world. Other than El Toro, which is a completely different animal, I struggle to think of a better opening sequence to a ride than these 3 massive, insane elements. They are truly mad and exhilarating. Rather than diving all the way back down from this hill, the train pulls up about halfway through the descent and enters what some might consider the only breather moment of the ride. This is a large fan turn taken roughly 100 feet in the air. It's mostly devoid of forces, other than the seats bumping up and down due to some wonky track work, but riders on the outside of the turn do get a nice view of the park entrance and the mountain range in the distance. This section of the ride has been updated on later versions of the 4D coaster to better maintain the pacing, but we'll get to that one day soon. Take a moment to collect your marbles here, because after this brief chance to catch your breath, the madness resumes. Diving out of the turn and picking up speed as you approach the earth once again, riders then enter a fly-to-lie element. This is essentially another large camelback, with a 180-degree twist at the top that transitions the train from an inverted position back to sitting above the track once again. Riders who begin the element on the left side are whipped up and over the top, rotated forward, and end up on the right side of the track facing backwards. Meanwhile, riders who begin on the right are pulled down and under the track, both sides experiencing a disorienting mix of lateral and negative Gs. Next comes the penultimate element, and this one's a doozy. Charging into a second Raven turn that's about half the size but somehow even more intense than the first, riders enter the element backwards, climbing sharply before flipping face forward at the top. From here, the train dives into a tight half loop, dropping into a below ground trench. And the bottom of this element feels like the most intense moment on the ride. This valley is brutal. I've been fortunate to only be in one car crash in my life, but riding through this element is about the closest I'd ever like to get to reliving it. I'm not sure if it's the sheer positive Gs or if the track just needs some serious adjustment, but this transition will force even the most pain-tolerant enthusiasts to grin and bear it. This is the other oh shit moment on X2, and while rider opinions may vary, Santa Clarita chiropractors absolutely love it. From here, you rise up into one last fly-to-light element, once again flipping riders over and backwards before the train slams into the final brake run, bringing it into the 2.5-minute ride. At this point, most riders will have no idea what just happened to them. They'll just be relieved they made it out alive. X2 is truly one of a kind, and easily one of the craziest, most intense roller coasters ever built. Even though SNS has updated the technology and gone on to build successor 4D coasters, the original Aero creation has a unique personality that still makes it stand out as a world-class ride. While the layout is undeniably a work of art, it has to be said, X2 is objectively rough. Inside seats are definitely the more comfortable experience, but riders in every row will be jostled and bumped around, and those on the outside seats will get slammed through a couple elements, especially that brutal final Raven turn. Now let's talk for a second about capacity. For the past couple of years, the park has been operating X2 with just one train, despite the ride originally opening with 3, along with multiple transfer tracks and even a separate load and unload station that, in my experience, hasn't been used in maybe ever. While the other 2 trains had been completely absent for quite some time, a second train has recently reappeared on one of the transfer tracks. Though, as of the making of this video, it's just the train bodies. No seats in sight. This is Magic Mountain's star attraction, and to be frank, it's pretty ridiculous the park has allowed these abysmal operations to continue for so long. Forcing guests to either purchase a flash pass or wait 90+ minutes for a 25-year-old coaster that people still travel across the globe for is honestly inexcusable. That said, I do know the park has new operations leadership that's focused on making positive changes. X2 cost Six Flags Magic Mountain over $55 million to build and renovate. Was it worth it? Well, I said it in our full park vlog, linked here. And I'll say it again now. While this park has one of the largest coaster collections in the world, in my opinion, there's one reason every roller coaster enthusiast must visit Six Flags Magic Mountain. And that reason is X2. So with all that said, what's my final score? I'm giving X2 a 9 out of 10. I go back and forth on whether this is my favorite coaster in California. It's in competition with Ghost Rider at Knott's Berry Farm, which is a completely different experience that I'll review another day. But there's no denying that X2 is a world-class ride. It's something you truly have to experience to understand. That said, I completely understand why it's controversial. Some people love it, and some people hate it. For me, it loses that 1 point due to the intense roughness, and that one brief lapse in pacing on the turnaround over the station. So, what do you think of X2? Do you agree that it's one of the best roller coasters in California? Or even the world? Or do you despise it? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this review, please be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. There's so much more roller coaster, theme park, and travel fun coming soon. See you next time.